Hi people, and hello my Chili Con Carnage crew. It's Chili here from Live Listener Raced, and we are bringing you another episode of the Live Listener Race game, this time joined by Tom from the Green Man YouTube channel. Tom, how are you?
All right, thanks very much, Chili. Yeah, excited to be here. Looking forward to this episode of Live Listener Raised as well, so can't wait to get into it.
Oh, it's going to be a good one, I feel. Tom does a lot of YouTube videos in regards to music reviews, so people make sure to check him out, but he doesn't just do music as well. Tom, you cover a lot of other subjects. What do you also do?
Yeah, it's quite a wide range of stuff on my channel. I do a lot of coverage of, some stuff relating to horror films, do some book reviews, usually fantasy books, and also some sci-fi content from time to time as well. So it's quite a broad scope of things that I cover. Right. And the Green Man name actually comes from a fantasy series called The Wheel of Time, which you might know. And that's sort of how the channel started. And it's because of my love of all things music, sci-fi, horror and fantasy. I just was like, let's just combine them all,
May as well. It's a perfect name as well. That's great. And I've seen a few of your videos. There's some great stuff as well. Make sure once again to check out his content, because damn, there is a lot of interesting stuff that he covers there. So we're going to go over the game rules just for those who are unsure on this one. So of course the game Live Listener Race basically involves picking 3 bands. Out of those 3 bands we will discuss them in detail, and at the end of this discussion we must decide which one will be erased forever, gone from the plane of musical existence, which one we will listen to forever but never see live, and of course which one we will see in a live performance but never listen to ever again. It's gonna be this is always a difficult decision. Everyone who's been on the show, it's like, oh. Now, Tom, being the guest for today, I wanted to let you have the first shot on this one for your list.
Okay. All right. Well, my list are 3 very influential bands, I think. All of them I would consider as trailblazers in metal, really, broadly, I suppose. So I've got Mastodon, then Baroness, and then, just to finish off, Gojira.
Oh my gosh. I mean, first you had me at metal. Damn, this is like the unholy trio, I guess you could say. Mastodon, Baroness, and Gojira. 3 big bands, especially when it comes to, I guess, the turn of the new century of metal as well.
And, exactly.
Oh my gosh, I don't even know where to begin on this one. So, look, let's begin with Mastodon, because that's the band I first started getting into when I was listening to their music. I am just thinking about it now. Actually, I bought 2 of their CDs at once. I remember way back, 15 years ago or something like that. It was Crack the Sky, and I think it's Blood Mountain. Both of those CDs at once. I don't even know why. I just had, young, dumb, and lots of money, and I'm like, yeah, just give me music,
Oh yeah, two of their absolute best albums there to start with.
Yeah, and I think, you know why? It's because, and it relates back to, I've discussed this in previous episodes, there's a metal disc that was very influential on my life called the MTV Headbangers Ball disc from like 2003. Mastodon March of the Fire Ants was on that. That's why. Absolutely.
Great.
Absolute furious pace track as well. It's like breakneck, whack, whack. So yeah, I went out, I think a couple of years later, bought their CDs, and have never looked back after that. I mean, this is a band that you could argue as well would say they've not had a bad album out.
Yeah, they've not, I don't think. I mean, I think they've had 1 or 2, albums that they don't quite hit the same. They're more in their psychedelic rock, space rock, slightly friendlier to the ears kind of music. I say friendly to the ears for non-metal heads, I guess.
Yeah.
The likes of Once More Around the Sun, particularly, I think. But generally, I think their albums are all really quite, at the very least, solid albums.
Oh, yeah.
Or for me, their first four albums are all just absolutely top notch. You know,
Yes.
four of the best metal albums of all time. They're not just all really good, but Leviathan, Blood Mountain is actually my favourite, which is a little unusual because normally it's Crack the Sky or Leviathan.
Yeah, that I was gonna
But
say, like, yeah.
Blood Mountain just comes straight out of the gates with that Wolf is Loose track, where it's just got that really nasty Bill Keller riff, hasn't it? And absolutely love this, the way that the first half of Blood Mountain is just furious and intense, isn't it? Because you've got
Yeah.
all sorts of weird stuff going on, and I think Mastodon, you know, they have really unique dynamics in their bands with three vocalists as well, like, or three of the band members doing vocals.
I was gonna say, didn't they all sing?
Yeah, I think actually they have in a way. I think
Yeah.
Bill did a lot. Didn't he do the harsh vocals in Remission somewhat? I think.
Yeah, I think early stuff on. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Um, they have at all times done some sort of vocals. Yeah, that's right. Actually, that's true. I guess Bran has done more and more clean vocals as time has gone by with more recent albums, and he's pretty good clean singer, to be fair. I think as well. Even though I see him as just like the most insanely brilliant drummer, one of the best of the last 20 years in metal for sure.
Yep. Concur.
It's incredible. Actually, part of the reason I'm into Mastodon, I saw them live in about 2007 in a gig with Machine Head. Him was a bizarre part of that lineup.
Yeah.
To be honest, they didn't really fit with Bill, and you had Metallica headlining it. And this was in Wembley in London. This was Wembley back about 16 years ago.
2007.
And
right.
Mastodon were first on.
Yeah.
I knew Blood and Thunder. That was all I knew at that point. I just knew that song from back on the days on Kerrang when they used to, you know, I don't know if you heard of Kerrang.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And the thing that caught me was the drumming, because I wasn't really into them enough at that point to know what they were playing or to be very familiar with them. But his drumming was just like echoing around the stadium, and it was just like, wow, this guy is just a monster with what he's doing. I mean, I'm not a drummer myself, but I could appreciate that what he was doing was just really skillful.
He's like an octopus with no friends, but he does have friends with the band.
Yeah.
I mean, he is a technically gifted drummer and insanely passionate and powerful, I should say, with behind the drum kit. And you catching them in 2007, so you're talking about early on in their career, fairly early on in their career. What was that, Leviathan they would have come out around that album?
I think it was not long after Blood Mountain, so Blood Mountain was 06.
Yes.
Not long after that. So this was about the time they were before what everyone, I guess, sees as their, like, Colossus, Crack the Sky, of course, which is an absolutely fantastic album.
I'd probably say that's my favourite one because and I'm probably going to boil it down to nostalgia a lot, but I love progressive metal, so
it's one of the greatest prog albums of all time. I mean, my personal favourite is Blood Mountain because that like me is my nostalgia point, but but Crack the Sky is absolutely immense. Yeah, you've got some really great tracks on that album, like front to back. Actually, there's no bad tracks on that album.
No, there isn't. They're all bangers. They're all going hard.
Yeah.
What is there, like 12 tracks, and they all just go from 0 to 100 at the beginning and just don't let up until the end. It's really good. I've seen them live, and that was during the Once More Around the Sun tour. So that would have been maybe 10 odd years ago. And I remember it was a very small gig. It was at the Luna Park. I was about to say stadium, but that would misrepresent it. It's just tiny room, you know. Probably was only a couple of hundred people in the venue, maybe 1,000, 2,000 tops, but really tiny, intimate type of setting. And I remember being in the middle of the mosh pit, and this little guy must have been like 15 years old, standing next to me, you know, with his dad, and he got elbowed in the face during the mosh pit, like full on. I'm like, oh my God, like, I'm there by myself, and every time it's like take my life into my own hands situation. But at the end of the show, they were throwing the plectrums out for the guitarists, and I caught one of them. And I looked over to this kid, and I'm like, man, you got clobbered in the eye. You take that. You deserve that.
Yeah. Oh, that's a nice thing to do, actually.
Oh, my gosh. And I remember, I think they played, oh, God, I'm trying to remember the name of the track. Is it Caprillian's Crest?
One of my favourites, that one.
That really technically
really
fast
odd,
piece.
Yeah.
I just remember like listening to it and like, my face is just melting at the whole point of it. The crux of the song is hitting me harder and harder. My chest just crushing. I mean, I've got to say, yeah, like you were saying, Once More Around the Sun, very entry level, I guess, for them, especially compared to their earlier stuff. But I loved Once More Around the Sun. I love Treading Lightly. I think was it the intro song. That thing goes hard. There are.
It's still a good album. To be fair, I think it's maybe the one I liked perhaps the least.
Yeah. I mean, I can understand it.
It's a good album. Yeah.
I can understand it. For example, I think there was a track there that I absolutely loved, and it was like I think it's Aunt Lisa or something like that. But looking back on it, it's not that good. It's those girls in the background, like hey, and I'm like, yeah, this is cool. It's getting me into it. It's getting me hyped.
Bit of a chanting one.
Yeah, that chanting.
I think by the time bands get to songs with chants as the choruses, it's like they might be running out of ideas a bit.
Arena Call, we're coming for you next.
Yeah.
Bring Me the Horizon just heard this podcast, and they're really disliking it. But I've got a lot of time and love for Mastodon in particular. What did you think of their most recent album, though?
Yeah, I liked it quite a bit. I was going to say I liked it a lot. I think I would have revisited it more if I really loved it. And I haven't been back to it a huge amount. But I think the first disc was, for me, the slightly stronger one.
Yeah.
Some really good tracks at the sort of front ends of the album.
Yeah, Pain with an Anchor and stuff like that.
I remember saying in my review that I really liked the ballad track, which was a unique take. Oh man, I'm trying to remember what it was called.
Yeah, no way. Because I was about to call
just in
it,
case I needed to check.
Yeah, have a look, because I was about to call it Tearjerker, and I'm like, no, wait, that's an American Dad reference.
Had it all.
Had it all.
Yeah. But I always felt like that track needed another vocalist to really enhance it, like the harmony of the chorus or something, just really bring it out a bit more. But yeah, it's a darker album. It's a little bit doomy and gloomy. You've got the odd track. I mean, Teardrinker is probably one of the more slightly upbeat ones. Pushing the Tides. And the second disc is actually pretty good too, to be fair. I think Savage Lands is really good. Yeah. A couple other tracks I'm not so bothered about, that maybe go on a bit. It's quite a long record. It was dedicated to their manager, wasn't it?
He passed away like the year or two beforehand. Stairway to Nick was also the EP that they released. Nick, oh God, I can't remember his name. Oh, not Offerman, no, that's the actor. But anyway, Nick was the producer? Yeah. For their albums, pretty much for their whole career. And I remember because, Stairway to Nick comes out, and I'm like, oh, cool, they're doing Stairway to Heaven, and there's this really cool little artwork thing, and I didn't realise the story behind it, of course. When it came to that album, 15 tracks, all of them at least 5 minutes long. It is a long record, And I remember when I was coming up to it going, this is going to be sick, 15 tracks of Mastodon, they're going to be pushing that progressive sound, probably, by the sounds of it. Kind of. I must admit, I was a bit let down by it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it's a terrible album. It just drones, overstays its welcome, I suppose. It's funny because, I'm just looking over it here. There's a couple. More Than I Could Chew was a good song as well, But I was going over it, and I remember saying to myself, you know what, I can make this better. I'm going to make a playlist with only 10 tracks.
Yeah, well, that's what I do sometimes. If there's an album that's long, I mean, recently, I don't want to go too off topic, but
Mm.
with Metallica's 72 Seasons, I would do a similar thing
Yes.
because there is actually, I've been finding that's been growing on me a bit, and there are tracks on there I would just take out and just listen to those, and the rest I would just probably ignore.
Oh man, 100%. I'm down with that. I mean, especially with this day and age, when we're past the point of buying albums to making them on playlists. It's an album's almost redundant. I've said this before with friends. If I was a musician, I don't know if I'd release albums. I'd be releasing like EPs, just a couple of tracks here and there. It'd be more focused towards. Yeah, I don't know. It's hard being a musician,
Yeah,
isn't it?
I mean, I actually love the album experience. I hope that we still get that going forward. I don't mind sitting and listening to an album for an hour or more, as long as it's good enough to keep you interested. So, like, a sort of a, I don't know, an album. I'm trying to think now of a long album that's
Results may vary.
yeah. Oh God, no. You almost
Check that
tricked me
episode out
there.
as well.
You got me. You got me.
Yeah, if it's worth the 60 minutes, you're invested for it for sure.
Yeah.
But if it's I don't know.
If it's got too many duds in, then it's just a drag, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. But yeah, I mean, at the end of it, I don't think there's a Mastodon album. There might be tracks that you might skip on the albums, but on a whole, there's no bad albums. So you got a strong pick there with Mastodon. That is a very strong start out of the gate.
Yeah.
You've done a good list here, man.
Yeah. It was interesting what you said at the start that they're all early 2000s bands, because I really kind of thought about what would make this super difficult. Like, all bands that came out roughly the same time that have all had evolutions and all been influential. Yeah. Very influential.
Yeah, no, it's a very good pick, and I like it as well. Like, you're thinking about the modern metal scene. A lot of people would just go with the dinosaurs, like Black Sabbath or whatever.
Yeah.
Oh, pick Black Sabbath again. How do you pick against a god? I don't know, but yeah. So okay, so Mastodon has got some incredible shit there, and there's no way you can argue against it. Even some of their solo stuff that they've done, I think they.
Oh yeah.
They worked. I'm trying to think of it. They worked with DC on a movie soundtrack on a couple of tracks here and there. Trying to think of it. Brandon, I think, worked on a track here and there. There's some stuff out there. It's like, yeah, we've done one or two tracks here, there, and stuff like that, and they're really good. I think it was called like Burning Red Skull or something. Something like that, and it's really sick stuff. Although I didn't see them in Game of Thrones, I did not pick them up there.
They were probably disguised as walkers or something. Not walkers. I'm getting confused with Walking Dead. The White Walkers, aren't they?
No, they were the Northerners. So all their beards just blended in. They didn't need any prosthetics.
Well, yeah.
And the tattoos and everything.
They probably were Yeah, you probably think, oh yeah, they just look the part and didn't realise they were Mastodon.
I mean, I swear, you could just go to a Mastodon concert and just stand at the front. If you were a Game of Thrones person going like, all right, we need to pick some extras, go to a metal concert. Just saying.
Exactly, yeah.
Make your life a lot easier, people. Oh, my gosh. All right, Mastodon is a very strong pick there. I'm going to go talk about Gojira next. Because that is one fast-moving band, at least when it comes to, I guess, the music that I'm listening to at the moment. And actually, one of the reasons I started the whole 5-minute reviews is because of Gojira's album, Fortitude. I was listening to it. I needed to record something between episodes, and I went, you know what? I'll talk about this album. People want to hear about album reviews. So that's... If you've ever been curious, people, 5-minute reviews started because of Gojira. That is how that whole thing started. Wow, what an album! Sorry, what a band! And perfect hand-in-hand connection with these two, with the whales, flying whales and Leviathan. And they've only toured together like 20 times.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
But yeah, it's let's see, where do we begin? Flesh. Look, I'll start from the top. I'll go with Fortitude, of course, when we're talking about Gojira, because that's the most recent one, the one I'm extremely familiar with, and one of the best albums to come out in 2021, I reckon. It was such a big album. I remember listening to it. Actually, I got one of my cousins into Mastodon. I'm sorry, Gojira. I said, "Oh, you got to check this band out. I know you love metal. You know, you Bring Me the Horizons or whatever." I said, "Check this band out, though." You know, and she wrote me a message later. She's like, "Thank you so much for showing me this band." Absolutely incredible. What is it? Another World. Just these absolutely incredibly heavier tracks, and they're one. I don't know. I know a lot of people compare Mastodon to Gojira and stuff like that, but they really do stand on two different platforms, don't they? Like, do you hear that often?
Kind of. I think they're pretty different though. Gojira do have a very distinctive sound. They're always playing those really fast kind of bottom string kind of shredding stuff with the squeaky sweeps and the what we call it pinch harmonics, I think, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Without getting super technical, but they have all those like trademark sounds to them, and you almost know from one of their songs or the whammy pedal as well. They always use a whammy, don't they? That's
getting the screech up there,
and you just know very quickly a Gojira song. Usually, I don't think you could pick many, and you wouldn't be like, or they'll have their like tribal, mellow sounding track as well.
Yeah.
So you can generally very quickly recognise the Gojira. I think the same with Mastodon and Baroness. Incidentally, they both have very distinctive sounds.
Yeah, they got.
But Gojira for sure. I mean, they also have a sound like. For me, it's kind of funny. They're so technically good, Gojira, and they're so tight live as well. That's something we'll talk about shortly. But they almost sound like a machine getting stuck in a good way, in the best way possible. You know, like your laptop drive getting stuck, but it's musical.
The old PS2 disc just.
Yeah. But in the best way possible. It's like it's almost groovy. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Kind of yeah, you're right, it's got a mechanist dirge to it, I suppose you could describe it as, you know. A lot of their music just goes on. The Way of All Flesh was one of the albums that I was thinking of,
which great
took me a while to get around to. And what is it, The Art of Dying, one of my favorite tracks, which is still very harrowing, I guess, when I'm listening to it every time. The lyrics always hit me, that song. And you know what? I got really into it after watching this YouTuber talking about the drum pattern for the introduction, because it's like this 9-minute long song that's, you know, when you're listening to it, because you're a fan, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. But and the guy broke it down in the drum pattern and said it's something like 45/4 drum beat. He broke it down technically, and he goes, when it opens up, it's 5 beats in a bar, then 9 beats, then 5, and then on the other side it's like 5 and 13, and all of this adds up to be number. It's this crazy video how this drum pattern is 45/4, and I'm like, what? Yeah, this absolutely technical drum pattern. I mean, I guarantee he didn't think of that when he came out to it. Came and approached it. This isn't, you know, this isn't. Oh gosh, I've had a brain fart. I can't think of the band now. But Meshuggah. This isn't Meshuggah.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Still a very good drummer though, and I guess we'll talk quickly about the live aspect of them, because I did catch them live, only just last year. And it was the first time I'd seen Gojira. And I remember we were at a festival, and there's, you know, a whole bunch of bands, and I said, I don't give a shit what else I hear. Gojira is number one on my list, and I have to hear them. And it blew me away. Probably one of the best mosh pits I've ever taken part of.
Oh yeah.
I mean, they played the whale song. The whole crowd got on the ground and started rowing the boat to it. Like, okay,
It's unique. Yeah.
yeah, I've never
Good.
been
Fun. Good
part of
idea.
rowing the boat.
In a mosh
How,
pit. Yeah.
so, what about your live experiences when it comes to Gojira? You wanted to mention something on that regard.
Well, yeah, I mean, I've seen them twice.
Mm.
Uh, and I think the first time I saw them was a really, again, one of these odd lineups, it seems, or more, even more odd, I would say, than the Mastodon, Machine Head Hymn, and Metallica lineup
Can it get
back
more
in
weird than
'07.
this?
Well, in a way, I think Gojira were kind of the odd ones out of this gig because this was a gig that
Ah.
Alter Bridge were headlining,
Oh,
and then
okay.
you had Volbeat,
Volbeat?
yeah,
Oh, wow.
and Gojira were before. I think they were before or after Volbeat. I think before Volbeat even. So you had
Okay.
all these fans that were more, I think, leaning towards. Obviously, I'm not going to say soft rock, but more rock, alternative rock, that
Mm.
sort of stuff. I love Alter Bridge, incidentally. Volbeat, I don't mind. I don't mind. Never
Yeah.
really super into them. But the funny thing was that the audience there, I think, were mostly Alter Bridge and Volbeat fans,
Mm.
and the crowds at this point in time. This was 2016, so I think it was 2016. So Gojira were pretty big. I
Yeah.
mean, I'd say they've gotten bigger since even then.
Yes.
Uh,
Oh, yeah.
I feel like Magma really got them even more better known, actually.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it was just funny to see people's faces because I was stood in the crowds where, I mean, and I think they played L'Enfant Sauvage. That might have been the first song. I'd have to look at the set list again.
Oh, yeah.
But like, and a couple of my friends were there who had no idea who they were. Obviously, I don't think they really knew Gojira very well, and
Gosh, I would have
they
loved to
just
see
were
that.
like, the hell, and I was just loving every second of it, but everyone else looked a bit sort of stunned. They just looked stunned at this like attack of noise and great noise, obviously, but yeah, they
Yeah,
just
of
didn't
course.
know what hit them.
They just weren't expecting it. They've like come out of this
Yeah,
barbershop rockabilly quartet, and then they got, okay, what
yeah,
have these French rockers got to do?
yeah,
Oh my god! And that's such a weird 6 degrees of separation
yeah,
from Volbeat to Gojira.
yeah. I could never
Wow.
understand that lineup. Um,
Yes.
yeah,
Well,
but I mean, and for me, I love Gojira and Alter Bridge, so I was like, well, it's a bonus for me, but it just wasn't a strange lineup, really. So yeah.
oh god. I mean, there's been weird lineups throughout history. For example, I think Powderfinger toured with Pantera back in '92 or something. Yeah, that's a whole story unto itself.
I
Oh
think
my,
it's just getting sales, isn't it, from as many.
yeah.
It's just a way of getting the
It's the getting the
money.
name out, but it's like at the same
Yeah,
time, are you really? Are these guys going to be your fan base? Because I don't think so, man. Yeah, Powderfinger, you made a misstep, and they've said that publicly. But anyway, but actually, you were discussing something just before Magma launching them into popularity. One of their greatest albums. I mean, L'Enfant Sauvage did very well. You know, really, God, I mean, I'm just looking it off here to the side. You know, From Mars to Sirius was really good, of course, Wave All Flesh. But it wasn't until L'Enfant Sauvage and then, of course, Magma that they really hit their stride. And I guess it's interesting. They haven't had a misstep yet, and they're only growing in progress after pretty much everything they've done since. I think, there's this mad snowball effect going on with them. Mastodon were kind of going through that when they went Crack the Sky to, I guess you could almost say, Jaguar God. And I feel like they're kind of shrunk a little bit in regards to it. But
mm.
Gojira it seems to me like even people who I wouldn't think would be fans of this band know them, have heard of them, and enjoy them. And it seems to be a name that flares up a lot when I've been
They
around.
push good cause. I mean, they're very environmentally aware, aren't they? I think that
Yeah, I
the
wanted to say
vocalist,
that
he's
part.
yeah, that I found it interesting. I read this up that if he wasn't a frontman, I think of a metal band, he'd be an environmental activist or something.
It would not surprise me,
Yeah,
especially when I mean, because it's an interesting one, like we were saying at the start of this, being new age metal, and you compare it to Metallica, let's say, from any thrash metal band, let's say from the 80s, and it's all about, war, death, blah blah blah. You can name all kinds of standardized lyrics, but then you move forward to now and metal. It's like Gojira are making
They're
these.
relevant.
Yeah, they're very relevant with the way that they're talking about these lyrics of, Amazonia, for example. I mean, their lyrics are great. I mean, I wouldn't call it inspirational. A warning would be probably the best way to describe it. Amazonia is just such a great warning to the world. What is it? The lungs of the earth are on fire or something like that. The lyrics are just
I
wow.
think so.
It's absolutely nuts when you're playing through it, and you're like, oh my god, out of 20 plus years of listening to war this, blow up that, da da da.
I did. Yeah.
To
I mean, I
hear
would say
that,
with they do really good lyrics as well. With Fortitude, to be honest, I maybe didn't dig that one quite as much as you. I thought it was a little bit. It just sounded a little bit thin to me. I like them when they really hit you with the sound, and I just found the production on Fortitude was just a little bit thinner sounding to me. But
Okay.
maybe that's how I'd listen to it. But yeah, I didn't really sort of. I still thought the music was really good and pretty top notch. But yeah, I would have liked it to have really hit me a bit more. But yeah,
I guess it's more
that's just me being a sort of yeah.
now you're just being a Volbeat fan. Oh
Yeah.
god, I get extra points if he spits his tea out on the webcam, right?
Nearly did.
Nearly. No, but I think as far as that record went, it was definitely the most accessible one that they've written. You go back to like their very first record when it's pure technical death metal, and it's like, what? How did I go from Fortitude to that?
Terra Incognita, I think. Yeah.
I don't know. It's one record I probably can't really get into too well. I think it just this disconnect between them. It's more
I know what you mean.
Yeah.
I think the link was. I actually liked the link, the next one quite a bit, and then obviously from Master Series is the incredible sort of progressive classic. Yeah.
I mean, when you got that song like the Whale song, which is, progressive death metal, and then you got this dun dun dun. It's just this little guitar riff before it goes into the heavier riff. But you're kind of like for a moment
they are the masters of build up. I think, and live the way they do that. So yeah, I mean, I watched the video not long ago of them doing Where Dragons Dwell at Hellfest in 2013.
Ooh.
That's worth watching because that's just amazing that they. And for a lot of that song, I mean, it's like they know how to do repetition to like perfection, don't they? They like you're saying with the riff in Flying Whales, that you get that dun dun for quite a long time, but it doesn't get dull. And then it's like a similar thing with Where Dragons Dwell with the outro. It's just the same riff, but it's doesn't matter because the way they're performing it live and getting the crowd going, it's just they pull it off,
Yeah, it's kind of like that. I guess you could almost say Fear Factory. Like they've learnt from Fear Factory, who have done this continuation of a riff over and over again.
Yeah.
But they built on it, and that's how it makes it better. If you were to just play the same riff for 40 minutes, well, good luck to you.
Yeah.
But I guess it works to some. But but they have made it so that this riff is, played out. Then it obviously segments into another section, but they'll come and revisit it in a little bit of a variant, whether it's tone, alternate picking, whatever, without going obviously technical. But they've done it in such a well thought way, and like you said, they're a masterclass for doing so. Many bands you could cite for that regards. And again, a very strong back catalogue where there's no bad albums when it comes to them. So that's you know what I mean? Like the only time I saw them, as I said, was in a festival setting. So you had your 50-minute slot, and I really wish they did a side tour for that because I want to see an hour and a half of Gojira. I could easily see 2 hours. I could watch them for 3 hours straight.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Totally.
you said 2013 as well. That's like peak Gojira. They're in their element. They had that live record around the time, L'Enfance Sauvage as well. Like, damn, damn. I got it. Which one? What was the name of that one? The one that you watched?
It was Where Dragons Dwell
Where
at
Dragons Dwell.
Hellfest 2013. Yeah.
I'll have to check that one out. That's nice. That's a very cool one. The last band on your list, Baroness.
Mm.
This is where it gets a bit tricky for me because I'm familiar with Baroness. I'm ashamed to say I'm not extremely familiar with them. They're a band that have... I've heard a lot of rumblings from other people saying, listen to this band. I think it's been mentioned many times on my Spotify playlists. And I bet you I could go through a playlist right now and find 2 or 3 Baroness tracks. So looking at this, it looks like they've done the Weezer approach where they got the red and the blue and the yellow albums.
Yes. Yeah.
Colours,
yeah.
Maybe you could run me through a little bit here because I'm just not extremely familiar, but I have heard of the Red album.
Okay.
Describe them to me if you could.
Okay. They're like one of these bands. I don't think they're easy to put into one genre. I mean, you could probably say the same about Gojira and Mastodon, but particularly Baroness. They're not out there. Their songs, a lot of them from more recent albums, are pretty memorable. Their first 2 albums are a little bit more on the avant-garde. I mean, just sort of a bit more of a indie rock, but heavy. It's just kind of interesting, really. Their sound isn't like somewhere between sort of sludge metal and kind of indie rock. They're kind of unique.
Wow.
Yeah, they sort of vary. You might have songs which sound like quite mellow and soft, and then ones which are a bit heavier and sound a bit more like Mastodon, but with the Thin Lizzy kind of guitar setup with 2 guitarists harmonising, sort of thing. They're actually a band I would say out of all 3 are the hardest to describe. So I've tried to describe them.
Trying to describe, but at the same time, it's like I don't know how I can pinpoint it. Actually, I'll just say quickly, I've just seen the Red album and I have downloaded Raise on Pinion, which I believe was the intro track for that one.
Good song. Yeah, good song. Good opening track. They were a really good band, actually. I've seen them live once. I have to say, I don't remember necessarily being completely blown away by their live performance, but they've got 5 albums now, I think, and all 5 albums are really good.
Okay.
A lot of people love their first 2 albums the most because those are their sort of seen as their slightly more, I would say, obscure classics. You often find that with bands that the fans lean towards the old stuff. But their more recent albums, like these 2,
the gold one and the purple one there,
purple and gold and grey.
Yeah,
the only 2 actually only on CD, but they're really good. And it's. Purple is one of my all-time favourite albums. Probably would be in my top 50 of all time.
Yeah, right.
So that's how much I rate that one. Golden Grey would be as good, but there's a bit of an issue I take with how this one sounds production-wise.
Oh no!
It's just deliberately like that. Baroness are deliberately I think they deliberately have their sound a certain way to be fuzzy and muddy. I use those words. And it works sometimes, but on this album, I think it stops the music sounding as good, personally. I think if they'd have made it a bit clearer, like with Purple, it would be a fantastic album. And it's just a shame because, my reviews I always give scores out of 10. So this would be an 8 out of 10, but if the production was better, it'd probably be a 9 or closer to a 10. So that just gives you perspective on how good their music is, and it's a shame because this would just be I think it would be a masterpiece if the production was better.
Yeah, right. Do you reckon when it came to did they do you know if they changed the producer around about that record?
You know what? I don't know who was the producer for Golden Grey. I don't know if it's produced by, because John Baisley is very involved in Baroness because he does all the artwork. You know, they're really great artwork. A great feature and consistency of Baroness is that they do fantastic front cover art.
Take that, Kirk.
All their albums, yeah, and they're all consistently the same sort of style that he does. Almost a little bit classical. There's a name for it. There's a name for this art style, and I don't know what it is.
I was
but it's kind of classical.
Oh no, it's not. Yeah, I know what you mean though. It's a very certain art style because that's one of the things that kind of it draws you in, doesn't it? It's not just here's a photo of the band. There's a lot going on in this picture on the front of the cover.
That's an interesting point because the artwork sort of does match the music because the music's sort of a little bit, you know, it's kind of arty. It's very expressive, so it kind of fits with the front covers. Yeah,
just a lot going on. Here we go. We're going to throw it all in like an omelette. Perfect. Is it red? Is it purple? If you were to say which album I should start on, which one do you think?
Yeah, I'm not sure I would start on their first two. I would either go with, and Yellow and Green is their more mellow album, so it depends whether you like broody, mellow stuff like I do. Possibly not. Otherwise, I would say start with this one, Purple, because it's got the slightly more accessible stuff on here as well as their more arty stuff, and it's got great sound. A few tracks on here like Shock Me, Try to Disappear in Morning Star, they're instantly good. So I think you might dig that one. Yeah.
Sweet. All right, I'll have to give Purple a listen to, I reckon. I'll do it while I'm editing this video. I'll be like, listening to Purple. I'll just go, shit, I really wish I listened to Baroness sooner. Oh, man. Yeah, because a lot of people have mentioned Baroness. I know a lot of people talking about them. And like I said, I've got them on a playlist here and there. I've listened to a couple of tracks, but I've never done a full dive on them. You know? And I kind of feel like that's one of those bands, and it just kind of catches you by off guard, you know. And then when you finally get around to listen to it, you're like, shit, this is good. Good stuff.
They did have I think they had they had like an accident, didn't they, the bands, where I think I don't know if all the whole band were on this coach.
Right.
And the coach, it was actually in the UK, the coach was going over a viaduct, and I think the coach fell off from the viaduct, or the viaduct collapsed.
Ooh.
And John Baisley, the frontman, broke his leg and his arm.
Ugh.
And the drummer and bassist fractured their spines, and because of that, in the end, I think that I've got to be careful because I don't know the full inside out of this, except that I think Alan Blick, I can't say his name, Blickhall, gradually did recover.
Yeah.
But I know the lineup changed because of that awful accident, and it meant that probably I imagine after that a band wouldn't be quite the same because you've had a bit of a traumatic kind of experience. And interestingly, I wondered whether that was why Yellow and Green was very mellow as an album, but Yellow and Green was released before the accident.
Okay.
So because that's what my impression had been, and I read up about it and I was like, oh, okay, well, the accident happened after Yellow and Green actually came out, because I didn't really get into Baroness until about sort of 2014, 2015. So
okay. I mean, like, given the history of many bands, there's been a lot of accidents regarding automobiles. Metallica would be the obvious one.
Yeah.
And albums post that. I mean, my co-host Dawes has always said that Justice for All was they muted the bass just because they were really sorry for the demise of Cliff. You know, they just did the bass sections. I mean, I've listened to the new recorded bass parts. I'm like, damn it, why'd you mute that? But obviously there will also be Diamond Eyes by Deftones after Cheese Accident. Very good album. Obviously, when accidents occur, can sometimes be the strongest emotion or creative influence obviously, when it comes to writing music. So, and that's unfortunate to hear about, like injuries like that, where spines and stuff like that. I mean, at least there's no Rick Allen Def Leppard style accident where.
Yeah.
Last thing we need.
Extreme, isn't it?
Yeah. Imagine if there was another one-armed drummer out there. It's just like, okay, this is getting too much, people. We can't trust drummers with cars anymore.
Yeah. It's almost strange, isn't it? The way these bands often have these, like, kind of accidents and stuff. Yeah.
Oh gosh.
Sort of the well-known ones. Yeah. Cool.
All right. So, okay, Baroness is the band that I know very little about when it comes to these three, but I've heard a lot of good things about them. So let's talk about these three here. Get them on the list. All right. So, Mastodon, Baroness, and Gojira. When it comes to these three bands, I mean, the easiest way, of course, is to eliminate one, and for obvious reasons, I would erase Baroness, just purely because, and sorry Baroness fans out there, but purely because I haven't listened to them, so kind of making my choice for me on that by default. Default, people, two greatest words in the English language. So, yes, by default, they go. The next two, though, I think I could just have a loading screen in my, like, above my head for the next 10 minutes, and I'll still be like, damn it, I've got nothing. Like, I just feel like I've got that. This is a difficult one because I've always thought about this, but now you're presented with it, and you're like, oh god, now I have to do it. Shit. You've stumped me. I'm left speechless. Tom, what have you done to me? Oh god, I hope my list is as hard as it is for me as it is for you.
It's a bit cruel, isn't it?
Yeah. It's a difficult one.
Sadistic.
Like, this sick and twisted person who came up with this game, why would he do such a thing? You know what? I think purely for nostalgia factor, I would listen to Mastodon for the rest of my life. Just because pretty much Crack the Sky, Blood Mountain, Leviathan, all their albums out there are just so good. There's no bad albums, so you're not going to have a dud record amongst the mix when you're going through their catalogue. And obviously the fact that they were the first band I listened to out of those three also helps. Yep. So I would listen to Mastodon for the rest of my life quite happily, and if it meant seeing a 2-hour set list from Gojira and then never hearing them again, I think I could be a very happy individual. Just as long as they play that death song to the 45/4 drum beat or whatever it was that I mentioned at the beginning there, because yeah, that would be an intense mosh pit again. It's a difficult one, but yeah, that's what I'd be. I'd eliminate Baroness, I'd listen to Mastodon, and I would go see Gojira live.
Interesting. Yeah. Okay.
What about
you? Do mine then. Okay. So, yeah, this was incredibly hard for me because without the live listener race setup, I think my decision would be different from if, say, it was just which two bands would you keep forever and which one would you raise. This might change. So this is what's so interesting about this is it's the live aspects that change my mind. It's the live aspects that changed my mind with this one. So anyway, I think it's going to be interesting. So Mastodon would also be my, and you could probably tell that. I mean, they're the band I talk most, like, what's the word? Lovingly? That doesn't sound like the right words.
With great joy, they fill my heart.
The joy they fill my heart with. Yeah, but they were a band that actors, it's so said so often that they were a bit of a gateway band for me into more extreme metal because they have that slightly harsher, aggressive aspect, in particular in like Leviathan and Blood Mountain. But they were also like memorable songs. So I was like, oh, this is getting me curious about death metal now.
Okay.
So they bridged a gap for me there, and then I turned out to love death metal and stuff. So I think Mastodon were like one of my introductions to that. So I mean, Mastodon are extremely important to me for that reason, amongst others, that they have a great discography, as we've said. Not really any duds. One or two albums I like a little bit less, as we both talked about those albums, but otherwise, pretty stellar discography. Now, this is the next one is where I really struggled, and that's why I picked these three bands, because I thought if I just pick one that's easy to erase, a really terrible band, it'll just be like 2 minutes. Yeah, we'll get rid of them. This is, and even now I'm hesitating a bit, but I think I'm going to be the same as you, because Gojira live are such an amazing experience live. I do love the discography, but to be honest, I'm not sure. I mean, with you said you could listen for hours. I could probably listen to them for hours as well. But with Gojira, I think, as with Mastodon, I would be able to listen to Mastodon a bit longer personally, because that sound Gojira have is kind of not one tone isn't the right way of saying it, but some of their stuff does kind of merge into one another very easily. So I think Mastodon as a listening experience is better. Also, I think Gojira live, when I've seen Gojira live, I think it's very difficult to sort of say they're better than Mastodon live, but Gojira's an experience live.
Yeah.
They know how to get their crowd going.
100%.
Like Gojira live is the ultimate metal experience, and you sound like you've had that yourself, as well. So
I think I got
what I'm
lucky on
talking
that
about.
one.
You know what I'm talking about, the mosh pits,
Yeah.
the reactions, the Duplantier, Joe Duplantier's vocals, I think, are his harsh vocals, but the way he roars out his vocals is just like with that Were Dragons 12. When you see Were Dragons 12, check it out. And and Baroness, I'm really like, I thought about this. I thought this is going to be on record online on YouTube as me saying I'd erase Baroness. I thought I don't really want that. I thought to myself, do I really want to be known as the guy that erased Baroness? I thought I don't want to erase these guys. They're one of my favourite albums of all time here. But I thought it's what makes this a great series, right? So
plead the fifth.
I'm
plead
sorry.
the fifth.
if John Baisley watches this, I'm so sorry. But yeah, it was difficult. I think the thing is that made it easy though, or easier, is just they've got fewer albums. That's as easy as it was made, because there's just not as much to listen to.
That's true.
So easy to pick Mastodon and Gojira above them. Also live, they didn't leave an impression on me live.
Yeah.
So ultimately they've had to be erased, but it's one of the most sad erasures ever.
This ain't no Grand Canyon of
they
erosion, people. This is
just albums, so yeah.
Oh my gosh! It's funny that we got that. It's a bit sad to hear, like, I guess, that they didn't leave a impressionable live performance on you. I can imagine that your choice would be made even more difficult if they did do a mad performance as well. Yeah. And like me, if I saw Gojira and it was a bad performance, I'd probably be in a really tight spot as to which band I'd choose. So, oh man! But this is the glory of the game. Hard decisions, people, that you must face with the three bands, in particular these ones. So guys, comment below. Tell us, which bands would you erase? Which bands would you see live? And which band would you listen to forever? Because this is one powerful list. Thank you, Tom, for this list and this incredibly difficult decision to come to. This has been a great episode, man. I just thank you so much for this list, Tom. Everyone, make sure to go check out the Green Man's channel as well. Does some great music-related content. So, people, we will see you later. And don't forget to check out Side B, which will be out in a few weeks. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Live Listen Erased. And if you have enjoyed this episode, make sure you share it with all your friends. Don't forget to subscribe to our Chili Con Carnage crew so you can get notified for all the future videos that we put out, as we put out videos every Friday. Also, we are on Discord, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter over at Live Listener Race, so make sure to tune in over there. And don't forget to like this video so that our manager can stay very happy.